Do you love avocados as much as I do? If you're anything like me, you can't get enough of that creamy goodness, whether it's on toast in a smoothie or just eaten straight up as a snack. But what if I told you that there are some serious mistakes that can totally ruin your avocado game? Yep, that's right. Avocados are delicious, nutritious, and super versatile. But if you're not careful, they can actually cause you some serious trouble. So, in today's video, I'm going to walk you through the most common and potentially dangerous mistakes people make with avocados. Trust me, you don't want to miss this because these tips will keep your avocado experience on point. Grab your avocados and let's dive in to make sure you're doing it the right way, not washing properly. All right, let's talk about something so simple yet so important: washing your avocado. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would I need to wash the outside? I'm just going to eat the inside. Well, here's the thing. If you're not washing your avocado before you cut into it, you're making a big mistake. Avocados grow close to the ground, and their skins are rough and thick, which means they can easily pick up dirt, bacteria, and even pesticides during their journey to your kitchen. And that's where the danger lies. When you take that unwashed avocado, grab your knife and slice through it, guess what happens? The knife can carry all that grime from the skin into the flesh of the fruit. I'm talking about dirt, harmful bacteria, and pesticides that might still be clinging to the skin. And what do we do when we cut the avocado open? We scoop out the soft, creamy inside with that same knife, transferring whatever nastiness was on the skin right into the good stuff. You might think, oh, I'm just going to toss the skin so it doesn't matter. But trust me, it does. That's why it's so important to wash your avocado under running water before cutting into it. Even if you're not planning to eat the skin, taking a few seconds to rinse it off can prevent cross-contamination. I know it's easy to skip this step when you're in a rush or just eager to eat your avocado, but it's such a quick and simple thing that can make a huge difference. Imagine if you cut into your avocado, and then without thinking, you use that same knife to cut some veggies for your salad, or spread it on your toast. All that bacteria could end up on your food, and you could risk food poisoning without even realizing it. So, here's my advice. Always wash your avocados under cool running water. It takes just a few seconds, and it's such an easy way to make sure you're not accidentally bringing germs into your kitchen. Improper storage. Let's talk about storage, because where and how you store your avocados can make all the difference between a perfectly ripe fruit and a mushy, spoiled mess. One of the biggest mistakes people make is leaving their avocados out at room temperature for too long, or on the flip side, refrigerating them before they're ripe. Both of these can lead to some serious problems. First, let's tackle leaving your avocados out too long at room temperature. Now I get it. Sometimes you buy a bunch of avocados all at once and you're excited to eat them. But if you just leave them on the counter without a plan, fruit flies can be a real issue. These pesky little insects love overripe avocados and they'll swarm around them, turning your kitchen into a little fruit fly party. Not only is it annoying, but fruit flies can also spread bacteria, making your avocado and your kitchen a lot less appetizing. But here's where the real problem lies. When you leave avocados at room temperature for too long, they ripen too quickly. Once they're overripe, they can become mushy, brown, and unappetizing, making them nearly impossible to use. And let's be honest, no one wants to open an avocado, expecting a creamy green inside, only to find a slimy brown mess staring back at them. It's such a letdown. Now, on the other hand, refrigerating avocados before they're ripe isn't the best idea either. You might think, I'll just stick them in the fridge to slow down the ripening process, and in some cases, that's not a bad idea. But here's the trick. If the avocado is still firm and not fully ripe, putting it in the fridge too soon can actually slow down the ripening process way too much. It can leave you waiting forever for it to soften up, and sometimes, it might just never reach that perfect creamy consistency. So how do you store them correctly? Well, here's the game plan. If your avocado is unripe, leave it on the counter at room temperature until it's ready to eat. But once it's ripe, that's when you need to pop it in the fridge. This helps slow down the ripening process, keeping it from turning into a mushy disaster. And if you've already cut your avocado and only need to save part of it, Try keeping the pit inside and wrapping it tightly in plastic wrap with a little bit of lemon or lime juice on the flesh. That'll help prevent browning. The key is to keep an eye on them. A ripe avocado should feel slightly soft to the touch, but not squishy. Don't wait too long to use it, because once it's gone over, it's game over. And remember, if you find yourself with an overripe avocado, don't throw it out just yet. Use it in recipes like guacamole or as a creamy base for smoothies or dressings. Not checking ripeness. Alright, let's talk about one of the most frustrating mistakes when it comes to avocados. Not checking for ripeness. We've all been there. You're craving that creamy, buttery texture of a perfectly ripe avocado, so you grab one, cut it open, and bam! You're hit with the disappointment of biting into an unripe, rock-hard avocado. It's tough, bitter, and, let's be honest, just not what you were hoping for. Now, I know the temptation is real. We're all guilty of thinking, I'll just cut it open and see how it looks. But trust me, this can lead to a very unpleasant experience. Unripe avocados are hard and extremely difficult to mash, and the taste is completely off. They have a sharp bitterness that can make your stomach feel uneasy. If you're sensitive to it, eating an unripe avocado can cause some serious digestive issues like bloating or discomfort. Not fun, right? So, how do we avoid this avocado heartbreak? The key is to check for ripeness before cutting into them. Here's a trick I swear by. When you gently squeeze an avocado in the palm of your hand, remember, don't use your fingertips because you don't want to bruise it. It should give a little under pressure. If it's firm and doesn't yield to the touch, that means it's not quite ripe yet. Leave it on the counter at room temperature for another day or two, and it should soften up just right. But if your avocado feels a little too soft, like it's squishy when you gently press it, you may have an overripe avocado on your hands. Overripe ones aren't always ideal for eating raw, but they can still work perfectly for things like guacamole or smoothies, where you want that creamy texture. Here's a neat trick I use when I'm in a rush. I always keep one ripe avocado in the fridge. This way, I know I always have one ready to go when I need it, and I don't have to deal with the anxiety of waiting for others to ripen. You can even speed up the ripening process by putting an unripe avocado in a paper bag with an apple or banana. These fruits release ethylene gas, which helps the avocado ripen faster. At the end of the day, the key is being patient and checking the avocado's ripeness before you dive in. That way, you'll get the creamy, smooth texture that makes avocados so delicious, without any of the bitter, digestive disrupting problems that come with eating one that's not quite there yet. Not checking for spoilage. Now let's talk about a big one. Not checking for spoilage before you eat your avocado. This is something many people overlook, but trust me, it can make or break your avocado experience. We've all been there, getting excited to eat that delicious creamy avocado, only to open it up and discover it's gone bad. It's a real letdown. You see, avocados are one of those fruits that ripen quickly, and if you're not careful, they can spoil even faster. When an avocado is overripe or spoiled, the texture becomes slimy and mushy, which is just not appetizing. If you notice that the flesh is very soft or has dark, mushy spots, that's your first sign that it's starting to go bad. And the worst part? You might not notice until you've already taken a bite, and the taste is just off. Overripe avocados can turn sour and bitter, leaving a weird aftertaste that's far from pleasant. But it's not just about the taste, it's about your health too. Spoiled avocados can lead to stomach discomfort. No one wants to deal with the bloating or upset stomach that can come from eating a bad avocado. That slimy texture can also be a breeding ground for harmful bacteria, which is why it's so important to check for spoilage before you indulge. So, how can you avoid this unpleasant experience? First, always give your avocado a good visual check before you cut into it. If the skin is wrinkled, or if you notice any dark, soft patches on the flesh, it's probably best to toss it. Another thing to look out for is the smell. A ripe avocado has a fresh, slightly nutty aroma, but when it starts to spoil, it can take on a sour or even rancid smell. Trust your nose. It's usually a pretty good indicator of whether your avocado is still good to go. If you've already cut the avocado and you're unsure if it's spoiled, give it a taste. If it's sour or bitter, it's definitely past its prime, and it's time to let it go. The good news is, you can still salvage an overripe avocado. Even if it's starting to turn, You can use it in recipes like guacamole, smoothies, or a creamy dressing where the texture isn't as noticeable. One more tip. If you've got a ripe avocado and you're not planning on eating it right away, put it in the fridge. The cold will slow down the ripening process and help you avoid turning it into a mushy mess too quickly. At the end of the day, the key to enjoying your avocado to the fullest is checking for spoilage. It only takes a few seconds to give it a quick inspection, and it can save you from wasting your avocado and from any unpleasant stomach issues. Pit disposal issues. All right, let's talk about something that might seem small but can actually be a big deal. Pit disposal. Now you might be thinking, what's the big deal? It's just a pit, right? Well, yes, but avocado pits can actually pose a serious choking hazard, especially for small children and pets. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. Those large, hard pits might seem harmless, but if they're left lying around carelessly, they can be really dangerous. Imagine a curious toddler or a playful dog running around your kitchen. The pit might seem like an innocent object, but it's big, slippery, and the perfect size for someone to swallow without even realizing it. And that's where the problem lies. I've heard stories of kids accidentally swallowing small objects like avocado pits, and it can cause all sorts of serious health issues. Even if it's not swallowed whole, if someone bites into the pit or tries to chew on it, it could lead to choking. And let's be real, no one wants to deal with that scary situation, especially in the middle of enjoying a meal. So, what's the best way to dispose of your avocado pits safely? First, never just toss them onto the counter or into the trash carelessly. That's a quick way for someone to stumble upon them and, before you know it, they're in danger. Instead, make sure to toss the pit in the trash, or better yet, wrap it in something like a napkin or paper towel to prevent it from rolling around. If you have small children or pets in your home, make sure they don't have access to areas where you might leave discarded avocado pits lying around. Now, if you're feeling a little more eco-conscious and want to avoid throwing the pit away, there are some fun alternatives. You can try growing an avocado tree from the pit. It's super easy to do. Just take the pit, remove the brown skin, and insert some toothpicks into the sides to suspend it in a glass of water. In a few weeks, you'll see roots growing, and before long, you'll have a little avocado tree sprouting. But even with that, make sure to keep the pit in a safe place until it starts growing. It's a fun project, but safety should always come first. Here's another little tip. If you're composting, make sure the pit is properly broken down or placed in a secure spot so it doesn't end up being a hidden hazard for someone later on. It's easy to forget about things like avocado pits when they're tossed into the compost bin, but with a little extra thought, we can avoid any accidents. So the bottom line here is this: always dispose of your avocado pits carefully. Whether you throw them in the trash, compost, or try to grow a new tree, make sure they're not left out where they could pose a danger. Safety first, always. Cutting with a dull knife. All right, here's a mistake that's not just frustrating, but potentially dangerous. Cutting with a dull knife. Now, you might not think much about it, but using a blunt knife to cut through an avocado can actually lead to accidents and make the whole process much more difficult. We've all been there, right? You're getting ready to cut into that perfect ripe avocado, and you grab your knife, only to realize it's not as sharp as it should be. You start trying to slice through the avocado, and suddenly the knife slips or it just doesn't go through smoothly. This can lead to some serious accidents, especially if you're applying too much pressure. And worst case, you could end up cutting yourself. But it's not just about the risk of injury. When you're using a dull knife, it's way harder to cut through the avocado properly. You might end up smashing the flesh instead of getting a clean cut, making it harder to remove the pit, and just generally making a mess. A nice, sharp knife allows you to slice cleanly through the avocado skin and into the flesh without having to press down too hard or struggle with it. Plus, it's way safer because the knife will glide through the avocado instead of bouncing off or slipping. Here's a little tip. Always make sure your knife is sharp before you start cutting. It might seem like a small thing, but a sharp knife will save you a lot of time and frustration. If you're not sure whether your knife is sharp enough, try cutting through something simple, like a tomato or a cucumber. If it feels tough or you're struggling, it's time to sharpen your knife before going anywhere near that avocado. And don't forget, the right knife matters too. A paring knife or a chef's knife with a good sharp edge will do wonders when cutting avocados. Avoid using a large, heavy knife that can feel awkward or make it hard to control the blade. So, next time you're about to cut open that avocado, take a moment to check your knife. You'll be much more efficient and, more importantly, much safer. No one wants to end up with a nasty cut just because they were using a dull blade. Overuse of salt or seasoning. Alright, let's talk about something that can easily ruin an otherwise perfect avocado dish. Overusing salt or seasoning. Now, we all love a little flavor boost, right? But here's the thing. Avocado has such a delicate, creamy flavor that sometimes a little goes a long way. I get it. Seasoning can make everything taste better, and it's tempting to pile on the salt, pepper, or other spices to give it a kick. But trust me, over-seasoning an avocado can completely overpower its natural buttery taste and turn your dish into something that's just too salty or spicy. Think about it. Avocados are the stars of so many dishes because of their creamy, mild flavor that pairs so well with all kinds of ingredients. Whether you're making guacamole, adding slices to a salad, or spreading it on toast. If you drown it in salt, lemon, or too many spices, it can mask that beautiful flavor, and suddenly you're not really tasting the avocado anymore. You're tasting the seasoning. For example, when making guacamole, it's easy to get carried away with salt, garlic powder, and even chili flakes. But here's the secret. Season in moderation. Start with a pinch of salt, taste it, and then adjust. It's much easier to add more seasoning than to try and fix a dish that's too salty or overspiced. Another thing to keep in mind is the other ingredients you're pairing your avocado with. If you're adding avocado to something like a sandwich or salad, you might already have dressing or condiments that are full of seasoning. So, you don't want to overdo it on the avocado itself and end up with a dish that's just one big salty mess. Here's a little pro tip. Instead of reaching for the salt shaker right away, try adding a splash of lemon or lime juice for a bit of tang, or a drizzle of olive oil for richness. These can enhance the avocado's flavor without overpowering it. So, the next time you're preparing that perfect avocado dish, take a moment to taste as you go. Let the avocado's natural flavor shine through, and remember, less is more when it comes to seasoning, not removing the skin properly. Now let's talk about a common mistake that many people make when it comes to handling avocados, not removing the skin properly. I know, avocados can be a little tricky to deal with sometimes, especially when it comes to getting that beautiful green flesh out without making a mess. But trust me, doing it the right way will save you time and frustration. Some people, in a rush or just not knowing any better, try to peel the skin off with their hands. Sounds simple, right? Well, not so much. The skin can be tough, especially if the avocado is ripe, and trying to peel it with your fingers can result in a sticky, frustrating mess. Plus, you're more likely to end up with uneven pieces of avocado, which can ruin the texture of whatever you're making. Here's a much cleaner and safer option. Use a spoon or knife to scoop out the flesh. It's way easier and ensures you get every last bit of that creamy goodness without wasting any avocado. Here's how I do it. First, slice the avocado in half lengthwise around the pit. Give it a little twist and voila, you have two halves. Next, carefully remove the pit. You can do this by gently tapping the pit with a knife so it sticks, then twisting to pull it out. Or, you can just scoop it out with a spoon if you prefer. Now, instead of trying to peel the skin off, take a spoon and scoop the flesh out from each half. The flesh will come out in nice clean chunks that are perfect for whatever you're making. This method is so much cleaner, safer, and more efficient, and it helps prevent any mess or frustration. Plus, it preserves the beautiful creamy texture of the avocado, which is what we all love about it. And here's a little bonus tip. If you do want to slice the avocado for salads or toast, you can still use the spoon method, and then just slice the flesh while it's still in the skin. Once you've made your slices, use the spoon to gently scoop them out. This way, you avoid the mess and make sure the slices stay nice and intact. So next time you're preparing an avocado, forget about peeling it with your hands and reach for a spoon or knife instead. You'll save time, get a cleaner result, and have a much better avocado experience. Not using avocados at the right time. Alright, here's a big one. Not using avocados at the right time. I've been guilty of this myself, and trust me, it can be a total bummer when you've been waiting for your avocado to ripen, only to find it a mushy mess when you're finally ready to eat it. So let's talk about why timing is everything when it comes to enjoying this delicious fruit. You see, avocados are tricky little things. They ripen fairly quickly, and if you're not paying attention, they can go from perfectly ripe to way too soft in just a matter of hours. If you've ever tried to use an avocado that's been sitting around a bit too long, you know the drill. Squishy, brown, and honestly, not appetizing at all. And nobody wants that. Here's the thing. Once your avocado reaches the perfect level of ripeness, it's best to use it right away. If you're not quite ready to enjoy it yet, don't wait around too long. Put it in the fridge to slow down the ripening process. The fridge can keep your avocado from getting too soft and turning into a mushy mess, giving you a little extra time to enjoy it before it spoils. But here's the tricky part. If you leave it out too long after it's ripened, it can become overly mushy and lose that perfect texture we all love. Not to mention, it may start turning brown inside, and nobody wants to be greeted by a sad, soggy avocado when they open it up. And here's a quick tip. If you find yourself with a ripe avocado but don't plan on using it right away, you can also try mashing it up and storing it in an airtight container in the fridge. This works great if you're making guacamole or if you want to use it in a smoothie. But again, timing is key. Use it within a day or two to keep that creamy goodness intact. So, next time you're dealing with a ripe avocado, don't wait around too long to use it. Whether it's on toast, in a salad, or blended into your favorite dip, using it at the right time is the key to getting that perfect creamy texture without any unpleasant surprises. And trust me, your taste buds will thank you. Not storing leftovers properly. Okay, so you've got a leftover half of avocado. You're not going to waste it, right? But if you don't store it properly, you could end up with a sad brown mess by the time you get back to it. And trust me, nobody wants that. So, let's go over how to store your leftover avocado the right way to keep it fresh and green for as long as possible. First of all, the number one mistake I see is not adding any lemon or lime juice to the flesh. Avocados turn brown quickly because of oxidation, which happens when the air hits the exposed fruit. But a simple drizzle of lemon or lime juice can help slow down that process. The citric acid in the juice acts as a natural preservative, helping to keep your avocado looking fresh. Now you might be wondering, does it have to be lemon or lime juice? The answer is, not necessarily. If you don't have either on hand, you can also use olive oil to coat the surface of the exposed avocado. This will create a barrier between the flesh and the air, slowing down the browning. So, there are definitely options. Once you've added your juice, or oil, the next important step is wrapping it up tightly. I can't stress this enough. Just placing it in a bowl won't do the trick. You need to cover that avocado with plastic wrap or store it in an airtight container. You want to minimize air exposure as much as possible to preserve the freshness. And if you're storing it in a container, try pressing the wrap directly onto the avocado to eliminate as much air as you can. Here's another tip. If you're only using one half of the avocado, leave the pit inside. The pit helps slow down oxidation on the side of the avocado, where it's still attached. It's not a miracle worker, but it definitely helps extend the life of your leftover fruit. Even with these steps, it's important to remember that your leftover avocado is not going to last forever. Ideally, you should try to use it within a day or two after cutting it. The longer it sits in your fridge, the more likely it is to brown or become mushy. But at least with proper storage, you can buy yourself some extra time before that happens. So, the next time you're left with half an avocado, don't just toss it into a random container and forget about it. Take a few extra minutes to add some lemon juice, wrap it tightly, and store it properly. Your taste buds, and your stomach, will thank you when you're able to enjoy that avocado just as fresh as it was when you first cut it open. Eating too much. Let's talk about something a lot of people don't consider when enjoying avocados: eating too much. We all know avocados are delicious, creamy, and packed with nutrients. But here's the thing. They're also really high in fat. And while it's the healthy kind of fat, that doesn't mean you can eat them without a little caution. Now, don't get me wrong. Avocados are amazing. They're full of monounsaturated fats, which are great for your heart, and they provide a ton of vitamins and minerals like potassium, fiber, and vitamin E. They're also super versatile, so you can add them to practically any meal, smoothies, salads, toast, and even desserts. But here's the catch. They're also pretty calorie-dense. On average, one medium avocado has about 240 calories. And that's not counting all the other ingredients you might be adding to your avocado toast or guacamole. So, if you're eating avocado after avocado in one sitting, those calories can add up fast. This is especially important to keep in mind if you're trying to maintain a balanced diet or watching your calorie intake. While those calories from avocado are coming from healthy fats, too many healthy fats still mean you're consuming more energy than your body might need in a given meal. And if you're not burning those extra calories off, they can turn into stored fat over time. Now, I'm not saying you should avoid avocados altogether. Far from it. But it's important to moderate your avocado intake. Try to stick to about half an avocado for most meals, unless you're really craving it or need a larger serving for your recipe. This will help you enjoy all the health benefits without going overboard on the calories. Another thing to consider is how you're eating your avocado. Are you adding it to a super calorie-dense meal, like a fatty breakfast or a heavy sandwich? If you are, it might be a good idea to balance things out by adjusting the rest of your meal. Maybe you don't need that extra dollop of mayo or a side of chips to go with your avocado toast. A little mindfulness can go a long way, so the next time you're enjoying this tasty fruit, remember, moderation is key. You can still indulge in the creamy goodness of avocado, but try to keep an eye on your portion sizes to make sure you're not eating more than your body actually needs. That way, you can keep your meals healthy, satisfying, and delicious without going overboard on the calories. Conclusion. And here's the big one. The most critical mistake people make with avocados. They just don't take them seriously enough. I've had friends who thought, it's just a fruit, right? How bad can it be? Well, trust me, one bad avocado experience can totally change your perspective. I've had my fair share of close calls, and let me tell you, it's no joke. Avocados are delicious, packed with nutrients, and a fantastic addition to any meal. But here's the thing, they require a little bit of care and respect. Whether it's washing them properly, storing them the right way, checking for ripeness, or even safely disposing of those pesky pits, a little extra attention can save you from a lot of trouble. Thanks for tuning in. If you've had any wild avocado adventures, whether they ended well or disastrously, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear your stories, assuming all avocados are the same. Here's a big mistake that a lot of people make when it comes to avocados, assuming all avocados are the same. You know the drill. Grab an avocado, squeeze it, and hope it's ripe, right? Well, here's the thing. Not all avocados ripen at the same rate. So, just because one avocado ripened in a couple of days doesn't mean every avocado you buy will do the same. There are different types of avocados, and each variety has its own ripening timeline. For example, the most common variety you'll find at the grocery store is the Hass avocado. This one usually ripens pretty quickly, typically within 2 to 4 days at room temperature. But did you know there are other types like the Fuerte or the bacon avocado, which might take a little longer to reach that perfect creamy texture? If you're only checking your avocado once and expecting it to be ripe, you could end up with a hard, inedible fruit. And if you're relying on that single squeeze test to determine ripeness, you could be in for a surprise, especially if the avocado variety you picked just needs more time to soften up. Here's the secret. Check them regularly. If you're buying multiple avocados, keep track of when you purchase them and check their ripeness every day. By doing this, you'll avoid the disappointment of having one perfectly ripe avocado and another one that's still way too firm. And trust me, you don't want to be waiting for an avocado to ripen when you have your heart set on that creamy toast or guacamole. It's always a good idea to have a couple of avocados in different stages of ripeness. You can use the ripe ones for immediate meals and let the others ripen at their own pace. That way, you'll always have an avocado ready to go when you're craving it. So, next time you're buying avocados, remember, varieties ripen at different rates, and keeping an eye on them regularly will ensure you get that perfect creamy texture every time.